Well, hello everyone and happy Halloween. It's digital host A.J. Wuest welcoming you back to Before the Four, the live stream where I take you through some of 48's top news stories and then some before our 4 o'clock newscasts. Wherever you're watching Before the Four this Halloween, this Thursday afternoon, thank you for watching and spending just a little of your Thursday afternoon with me here. Now let's jump into some of our top stories of the day, and starting things off with the weather. A first alert weather day is issued for later on this evening. 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis explains why. Brad?
Happy Halloween, everyone. AJ, we've got some rain on the radar. It's just a little ahead of schedule right now. It's kind of had a lot of momentum with it from last night. Not a lot of thunderstorm activity, and that's one thing we've been watching out there, of course. As we take a look at the radar here just before 4 o'clock, about 30 minutes before 4, you can see it started raining in Florence and Russellville. That's going to continue to slow down as it moves east. We have a first alert weather day today and early tomorrow morning. It's not a severe weather threat at all. It's just kind of a heads up. Just stay weather alert out there this evening with trick-or-treaters out there. Even the trick-or-treaters need to just be aware. We could see some lightning, some rain, slippery conditions, even just going on your back deck with the leaves out there. And then the morning commute tomorrow could have some issues just due to slick roads because it's been over a month since we've had significant rainfall, and we do expect to see the light rain out there tomorrow morning. So as the rain moves in tonight, area in orange, pretty much already seeing that here. After 5 o'clock, Huntsville metro area, and after 8 o'clock from Arab, Gunnersville up to Scottsboro. Here's a quick look as we go beyond 4 o'clock. Quickly taking you through. As we get into the 7 o'clock hour, notice it's stalling out a little bit, and that's going to lead to more rain overnight tonight through the morning commute tomorrow. So again, no severe weather, but we are watching for some issues out there on the roads and even walking around in the rain out there this evening. So make sure you are careful out there and enjoy. Here's your forecast the next 3 days. We've got a nice weekend ahead. We do change the clocks, though. We'll take another look at your forecast coming up at 4, 5, 6, and 10.
That is definitely good to know. Thank you, Brad. And now in Boaz, where 48 Savannah Sapp is today, speaking with the mother of a Boaz stabbing suspect. A man was arrested Tuesday night for a deadly stabbing. According to the Boaz Police Department, 25-year-old River Hammett, who you're seeing on screen, allegedly stabbed and killed 38-year-old Turfless Saint in the parking lot of the Western Sizzlin. Now, Hammett is charged with murder and is being held at the Marshall County Jail. But stick around for our evening newscast to hear what his mother had to say about Hammett from 48 Savannah Sapp coming up. And another big story, this is in the Tennessee Valley in general, but 4 cases of whooping cough have now been confirmed here in North Alabama. According to the Alabama Department of Public Health, they are seeing an uptick in cases, 41 in 2023 and now 124 this year. Officials say they have found cases in Jackson, Lauderdale, Limestone, and Madison counties. Yesterday, the department confirmed a case was found at Scottsboro High School, and 48's Aria Pons will have more on the development coming up in our evening newscasts. And now a few stories in case you missed them. Following up on an apartment fire that occurred in Huntsville just a few weeks ago, 48 Sarah Grace Kennedy recently spoke with one of the residents of the Fern Park apartment complex who says the delay in discovering the cause of the fire is affecting her. 19-year-old Cheyenne Davis lost nearly everything she owned in the fire. As a photographer, she lost all of her equipment, and now she's trying to find other work in the meantime. Davis is unable to receive any money from her insurance provider until officials determine what caused the fire.
I'm only 19, so this is all like my childhood stuff and everything that I just brought with me. So like having to start over, and then we're here all alone. My family's in Utah, and then my boyfriend's family is in Virginia and Maryland. So it's just like we don't have any other help besides just us.
You can read her full story on our website at waff.com. And now let me pull this up for you all. In Morgan County, that was where 48's Noah Cowell was yesterday, reporting on the Decatur Morgan EMS ambulances. Now, emergency medical officials confirmed that the Decatur Morgan ambulances were so busy on Monday that they needed help from other agencies. Decatur Fire Chief Tracy Thornton says there is no shortage of ambulances, but the staffing numbers have been low. He added that you can truly never predict how many calls might come in at a time, but he never wants to have to ask for help from other agencies.
We want to keep the amount of times that happens as low as possible. We don't want other agencies having to come in and run calls for us. That's not what the goal is. The goal is for Decatur Morgan EMS to be able to run the calls for the whole city 24 hours a day, every day. And I know that they're working to try to do that.
Thank you for that, Noah. And a new half-mile trail opened at the Rainbow Mountain Nature Preserve in Madison yesterday. The new Rainbow Trail is considered moderately difficult to trek. Construction of the new trail took place over 18 months and needed a lot of volunteers to pull off. Yesterday, we spoke with Land Trust of North Alabama's Executive Director, Marie Bostick, and take a listen.
It's really inspiring to be able to work in this realm where you see the people and how they're affected by the natural lands around them. So like taking a hike like they did just now, it's just, you can almost see the release of on people's faces as the stress of their daily lives just kind of melt away as they can just sort of breathe and relax.
Awesome stuff there. And now a story out of the Shoals, where 48's Aria Pons was yesterday, providing details on one local amendment currently on the ballot in Lauderdale County.
I've lived in the same house for 46 years.
Alabama Representative Philip Pettis says people like resident Billy Darby are the reason he wanted to set this bill in motion for Lauderdale County. It's about people who have lived in the area for a long time, have barely made any changes to their property, but are still seeing a rise in their county property taxes.
It just benefits them on their taxes. They're not going to have to pay as much taxes, and that's what a lot of elderly people living on fixed income need. Less taxes.
Local Amendment 1 on the Lauderdale County ballot for November 5th, if passed, could help with that. The amendment would allow homeowners ages 65 or older to be exempt from increased county property taxes if the value of their homes increases. Revenue Commissioner Billy Hammock says even if you're not 65 just yet, you should still consider voting for it.
Eventually you will be 65 if you hang around. Like some of us, it's not quite to 65, but we're getting there, so it'd be really in favor for us. I live in an area that is actually growing, and it's been growing for the past 4 years. My taxes is 2.5 times what I paid for my house.
Hammock says there are a few exceptions to the exemption. They have to be 65 or older, and it must be their primary residence for at least 5 years. They can also not make any changes to the ownership, acreage, or more, otherwise the 5 years starts all over again. He says the most important part of this process, though, is the voting.
Everybody needs to go vote. No matter where you're at on anything, just go vote. That's your voice in government.
Well, thank you, Aria. That is certainly good to know. And now 48's Nick Ballinger reports on the lack of early voting impacts on Alabamians.
Record high early voting numbers are rolling in. 1.8 million in Tennessee, more than 38% of total expected turnout. 3.2 million in Georgia, a state record. But for Alabamians, you'll have to wait for November 5th.
If I had the opportunity to vote early, I probably would, because that sort of ensures your vote in case something happens on Election Day.
Political analyst Wayman Burke says even though we don't have early voting here in the Yellowhammer State, we can learn from these numbers.
There is a great deal of intense interest in this. 2020, then President Trump basically discouraged people from voting early, saying that it was rigged and that type of thing. That did not work well for him. But now he is encouraging his supporters to vote early.
NBC is reporting that of the 58 million early voters, so far it's evenly split between Republicans and Democrats. And while Burke says these high numbers are a good sign, he isn't sure if this means more voters overall.
What we don't know is, are those votes being cannibalized from the people who would normally have voted on Tuesday?
Madison County probate judge Frank Barger is concerned about apathetic voters not hitting the polls because they feel they don't have to.
It certainly concerns me that more folks are not participating. The primary this year concerned me.
He shared with me that only 17% of eligible voters went to the polls during this year's primary. That's half of the turnout the election prior. But he says that number shouldn't affect the usual 65% voter turnout we see, as long as voters actually show up.
You can't complain about how things turn out if you're not engaged. Don't let a rainy day, a windy day, an off weather day, don't let that impact you.
Thank you, Nick. And it is now the final stretch of the campaign trail for both candidates. Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are continuing to campaign in battleground states. NBC's Garrett Hake with more.
With just 5 days to go, Vice President Harris and former President Trump both urging voters to help write a new chapter in American history.
We have an opportunity in this election to turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump, trying to keep us divided and afraid of each other.
We can turn the page forever on this failed and corrupt administration.
Trump leaning into President Biden's garbage comments, posing in a garbage truck.
How do you like my garbage truck?
And attacking Biden and Harris and their supporters.
Crooked Joe Biden finally said what he and Kamala really think of our supporters. He called them garbage. My supporters are far higher quality than Crooked Joe or Lion Kamala. You can't lead America if you don't love Americans.
The controversy began with this offensive remark by a comedian at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally on Sunday.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
President Biden responding Tuesday on a video call with Latino groups.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable.
The president later saying he was only referring to the comedian. Harris quickly distancing herself from the comment.
I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for.
Democrats pointing to years of incendiary rhetoric from the former president, demonizing his political critics.
They are indeed the enemy from within.
Trump, who faces a potentially historic gender gap at the polls, closing his rally last night with this message to women.
I want to protect the women of our country. I want to protect the women. Sir, please don't say that. Why? They said we think it's very inappropriate for you to say. I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not.
Well, thank you. Just a few days to go until Election Day. But now let's take a look at some of the crime going on here in Huntsville and who HPD and 40H Dina Benitez need your help stopping.
Huntsville police are looking for some people who they say came prepared and then executed a high-priced heist. If you recognize them or the van they were in, investigators want to hear from you. This happened on October 12th on Old Madison Pike. Police say these thieves drove this van with a trailer attached and pulled up to a covered-up golf cart. Authorities say a masked man then got out and swiped the light blue Yamaha golf cart and then took off. If you know the guy underneath the mask, call HPD. Investigators want to bring in Donnie Oliver, Robert Sandifer, Robert Burson, Elijah Hutchins, Renia Chester, and John Irwin Jr. All 6 are convicted sex offenders, and authorities say all of them failed to register as sex offenders. If you know where they are, authorities want to hear from you. It's easy to turn up to $1,000 if you have information that can help cops. Just call 256-53-CRIME or add a tip to P3 Tips. That's an app you can download on the App Store. You can also text or email your tips. For more information, visit the Crime Stoppers link on our website, WAFF.com.
Well, thank you, Gina. And now in sports, the 48 game of the week and the final high school football regular season week is West Morgan taking on Deschler in a little 4A Region 7 Friday night action. West Morgan has already been crowned region champs, but everything is on the line for those Deschler Tigers. They are competing with 4 other squads in that region, seeking one of those 3 playoff spots. Should be a great game, and staying in sports, let's take a look at our play of the week last week.
We also have our plays of the week, and here's our winner for our 48 Blitz play of the week from week 9 action, as Muscle Shoals comes away with a region championship and a victory over the Hartselle Tigers earlier on Friday. A big win for Muscle Shoals, 94% of this week's vote. Congratulations to the Trojans as they become our week 9 48 Blitz high school football plays of the week.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Carl. Well, today is Halloween, and I don't know how many of you can say you're a descendant of a woman accused of being a witch in Salem, Massachusetts, back in 1692. NBC's Courtney Sisk introduces us to an Illinois woman who says she is and has the proof to back it up.
This is the line down.
Karen Dutil of Prospect Heights feels a close connection to Halloween.
This is her profile, which tells all of her children.
Her genealogy chart links her to Rebecca Nurse, born Rebecca Town, one of the most well-known women accused of being a witch in Salem.
She is my 7th great-grandmother.
Nurse was the oldest of the accused and convicted and was hung to death after her trial.
In 1692, people were really shocked by the accusation of Rebecca Nurse. She is a 71-year-old woman in 1692. She has a really positive reputation in the community.
Rachel Christ-Doan is an education director at the Salem Witch Museum in Massachusetts.
Her story, I think, it's one of the most tragic in some ways, and it's very well known because it is kind of a really important moment in the context of 1692.
I think the unfairness of it all and the lack of control that people had over being accused, you really didn't have to do anything to be accused.
If women confessed, even though they weren't guilty, they would avoid execution. But that's not what Nurse was willing to do. Her homestead is still there in nearby Danvers. Dutil visited the museum years ago, walking in the same steps as her family member.
The brave woman, she refused to lie. So that she told the truth, even if it killed her. Mary Estelle Pollock is my great-grandmother. Winifred.
Very cool. But now check this out. A spectacular and spooky display in Southwest Virginia has become a community favorite. It's created by an 8-year-old, and yes, he is only 8, who spends all year collecting his money to make it happen. Local News Live's Patsy Montesinos shows us his love for Halloween. Take a look at this.
No one embodies the Halloween spirit.
This is a hanging mummy I got from the spirit store.
Quite like 8-year-old Harvey Heffernan.
I started decorating for Halloween 3 years ago.
He transforms his family's front yard into Halloween Town.
It just slides on like that.
But Harvey's passion for the spooky holiday runs much deeper than setting up decorations.
I guess because they're scary.
Do you want to scare people with your decorations?
Yes.
And scary they certainly are. His display features everything from witches, skeletons, and clowns.
He says 2 phrases.
Every piece of decor has been purchased with his own money, earned from birthdays, holidays, and allowances.
I saved my money up for the witch.
He even started Harvey's Cider and Donuts to collect funds.
It's something he looks forward to every year. Literally July 5th, after we're done watching fireworks, he says, "Dad, can we get out the Halloween stuff?"
While John Heffernan helps Harvey in his mission, he knows who the true mastermind is.
I'm only the assistant. My son is really the director, and he's the one that puts everything where it belongs and where it goes, and I don't question anything.
Do you use some rebar?
It's not just a hobby for Harvey. He learns about hard work, building props, and assembling every spooky piece. His favorite part, you might ask, when people slow down, take pictures, and claim them as the Halloween house.
This is how big it is compared to me.
So if you find yourself driving down McVitie Road and Wind Drive this Halloween, be sure to appreciate Harvey's work of art. The boy whose love for Halloween shines brighter than any pumpkin in the patch. Reporting in Roanoke County, Patsy Montesinos, WDVJ 7.
Woo! Talk about taking spooky season to a whole nother level. That is awesome. And for him to plan that far ahead of time for this and for all those different pieces, that shows a bunch of dedication. Awesome story there. And that's one of those stories you're just not going to want to miss. And speaking of the stories you're just not going to want to miss, let's head into those stories you're just not going to want to miss in our evening newscasts. A local foundation offering free hay rides to kids with special needs. Very sweet story there. Another story you're just not going to want to miss. Florence students participating in the annual pumpkin drop. Awesome story there. Get that. And finally, the latest on what Athens is doing for their Dia de los Muertos. And these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscasts. And I think it is about that time. And what is it time for? You already know what time it is. It is time, as always, that is how we like to end before the 4 with Facebook fun. And our 48 Facebook question of the day: what is your favorite Halloween tradition? There are just so many, whether it's pumpkin carving, whether it is trick-or-treating, watching spooky movies, and reading spooky stories, telling spooky stories. There's just so many awesome Halloween traditions. But what I want to know is what your favorite is, and that is what we are going to find out right about right now. And let's see, Julie, she said hayride around the neighborhood. Absolutely. I went on a hayride this past Saturday. It was an awesome time. The hayrides are awesome. I love them so much. Julie, thank you so much for commenting. Yeah, hayrides. Cannot go wrong with that. Let's see what else you all had to say. Marie said watching The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown every year. That is another really great one to do. I grew up watching that with my mom. My mom is a huge fan of the Peanuts. And every single year for Halloween and for Christmas, we would watch It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and of course the Charlie Brown Christmas over the holidays. But Marie, thank you so much for commenting. That is an awesome one. The iconic scene, or the I Gotta Rock scene, so iconic. Makes me giggle every single time I watch that episode. But yes, let's see what else you all had to say. Miranda said carving pumpkins, a Halloween classic. Cannot go wrong with carving pumpkins. What kind of pumpkin, like, do you have like stencils that you draw on the pumpkin and carve out, or do you just like to do the basic pumpkin carving, like cut out the triangles? Whichever you like to do, whether you like to keep it basic or make it fancy, it is still a lot of fun. Awesome comment there. And then let's see. Sharon said, sit outside with your family and friends by a bonfire and tell ghost stories. Happy Halloween. Boo. That is another really awesome thing to do. Bonfires. There's just nothing like it in this October weather. It's frisky. It feels like the center of a crisp apple. That is October weather for you all. And what better way than to be in the weather by a bonfire and tell ghost stories. Awesome comment. Thank you so much for commenting. Everyone who commented, Greatly appreciate it. But that is about it for today's Before the Four. I want to thank you all for sticking around and spending a little of your Thursday afternoon with me here. If you haven't done so already, make sure you download the 48 Digital app, the 48 First Alert Weather app, and of course, the 48 Sports Zone app. Turn on those push notifications and you will never miss a breaking story. But with that said, that is about all the time I have. But of course, I want to thank you for watching. You all have a great night.